the best topic to be talking about. Because even in the midst of times of great difficulty or struggle, we need to remember what it means to have joy in our life. We need it more than ever right now. And the passage that I want us to, that kind of is leading how we design this week, is Philippians chapter 2, verses 2 through 5. And it says this: "Make my joy complete. Be of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility regard others as better than yourselves. Let each one of you look not to your own interests, but to the interests of others. Let the same mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus." And so the first thing that we're doing is we're make my joy complete. We're going to try to understand, how do we bring joy into our life? How can we live in a state of joy? And today what we're going to be talking about is being of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind. And when I think of that, if we're all of the same mind, and we're the same love, that there's a sense of peace that comes from that. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility regard others as better than yourselves. Let each of you look not to your own interests, but to the interests of others. We're going to be thinking about how do we gain joy through purpose. And then finally, on Wednesday, before we do our Holy Week service on Thursday, we're going to be thinking about let the same mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus. And if there was one person that cared about his message and cared about who he was and how he cared for others, it was Jesus. And I believe that he had a great passion for what he was doing. And so we're going to be looking at what does it mean to have joy through passion. And so our week, where'd it go? There it is. Quit it. We're going to be looking at joy through peace, joy through purpose, joy through passion, and then we're going to have the Holy Week service with the Gloria by Vivaldi. It's going to be a wonderful week. And now Roy is going to come and say a prayer for our time today.
Please pray with me. Our good and gracious God, thank you for giving us the opportunity to come together as a school and pray. Thank you for providing us with a community where we may strive for excellence and have strong faculty to support us. Lord, I pray for our loved ones that have transitioned to eternity to live with you in paradise, that you will calm our restless hearts. I pray that you will give peace, especially to the Goings family and the Tribble family. During this time, I pray that you will give our political leaders the wisdom to make the right decisions so we may not have to lose any more of our brothers and sisters, and that we may all be safe at school. I pray that we all will have open hearts and open minds to understand the meaning of Holy Week. In the Lord's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. If I were to ask you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you? Where would you put yourself? If I was to ask you, and that's good, you're going to be talking about this in advisement. You won't have to share your number. But on a scale of 1 to 10, how joyful are you? As I've talked to a number of people here at the school, a number of your classmates, I know that there are people that would answer on the 1 and people that would answer on the 10, and every number in between. Even some people would say maybe 4.5 or 7.5 to add a few numbers. But we're all at different places. And so we all need to understand, what does it mean to have joy or to be happy in our life? It's an important topic for us to talk about. Now you might be sitting there thinking, yeah, that's great. Because I know all these people that say that they're joyful, they're happy, it just seems goofy, right? Have you ever met that person that doesn't really understand the situation, and it's a really sad or difficult situation, and they're really too bubbly? Have you ever seen that before? It might be a little bit like this.
Because I'm happy all alone. If you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy all alone. If you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy all alone. If you know happiness is
I think that is a way cooler way to be happy. Do you agree? Not to hurt any REM fans out there. But it seems that these days that everyone is asking the question, how do we find happiness? I was reading a New York Times article that was about Yale and their most popular class. And in the article it said this: on January 12th, a few days after registration opened at Yale for Psych 157, Psychology and the Good Life, roughly 300 people had signed up. Within 3 days, the figure had more than doubled. After 3 more days, about 1,200 students, or nearly 1/4 of Yale's undergraduates, were enrolled. It was the most popular class in the 316-year history at Yale. I think a lot of people are looking to find happiness and to find joy and to learn how to be happy. At Harvard, the same thing in 2006, the most popular class ever, 900 students enrolled in a lecture titled Positive Psychology. It sounds like a lot of people at Yale and Harvard were looking for the answer of what does it take to be happy. The professor in that article talked about why she is putting it together. Her argument was this: the things Yale undergraduates often connect with life satisfaction, a high grade, a prestigious internship, a good paying job, did not actually increase happiness at all. And so what I wanted to do is wanted to see, are we having that same issue here? And so I had Turner Cravens go around and interview some of the students and see what they say. So let's go ahead and listen to this.
I guess feeling joy.
Being happy usually comes from doing something you like.
It means being content with where you are now.
Liking where you are, or liking like where your state of mind is at.
When I think of the word happy, I think about smiling and being joyful.
To me, the word happy means just doing what you love.
To me, happy means when you can be yourself and just live in the moment and not be worried about other things.
Joy means having pleasure in one's life.
Joy is like a little more complex. Happiness,
It's not just an emotion. It becomes like an action almost.
Bringing not just happiness to yourself, but happiness to others, and kind of having that mutual feeling of excitement, happiness, and love around you and your community.
Joy means when you don't have any worries and you can just be content with what you have.
I don't know, I guess it's the same thing as happy. I don't really think of them as separate.
Happy is just like a passing emotion. Joy can be more like a part of you as a whole.
No, they're synonyms, so they're pretty similar.
I think a small difference, yeah, 'cause I'd say happiness is more temporary and I would say joy is more long-term.
you can use the words interchangeably, but I think joy again means more of like a complex happiness, like a big win in your day, not just like a small little thing like jumping on the video game sticks.
I think they could be the same thing.
Only small differences, in my opinion.
By doing things that you like.
Again, just doing stuff you like.
The way you find happiness is just doing stuff that pleases you. Like for me, it's playing guitar, doing theater. That makes me happy.
You find happiness through doing things that you love and being with people that you love spending time with.
I find happiness in talking with friends, going to sporting events, playing at sporting events, playing video games, just hanging out with friends, watching sports.
Just find what you love to do the most. Whatever brings happiness to you, happiness to other people.
On the weekends, no school, just time to relax and catch up on ESPN, basketball, football, whatever's on at the moment.
Doing things that not just make you happy. Joy is more sustained. It kind of fills you up.
I think just by doing the right thing and being honest with yourself and with others.
For me, it's reading my Bible, spending time with people that I care about, and just being around other happy people.
You become joyful by hanging around people you know the most, hanging around friends, family, maybe even teachers who you enjoy a lot.
Just by living in the moment, worrying about the now rather than the future or the past, because you can't change those things too much.
All right, let's hear it for our students. Great. So is there a difference between happy and joy? They are both in the same avenue. They're rowing in the same direction, but we need to be careful because there is a difference. When we look at the definitions, happy is delighted, pleased, or glad over a particular thing or an event. Happiness is the quality or state of being happy, good fortune, pleasure, contentment, or joy. And joy is the state of happiness or felicity. And there actually is a difference between these things. Because being happy is usually an emotion that comes from something external that is happening most often. That it's an event that happens and it makes us have the emotion of feeling good, being happy. Whereas I think happiness and joy are actually states of being, that we live in a state of joy or a state of happiness. And I want to contend to you that a state of happiness actually comes from having joy in your life. Out of your state of joy comes a sense of happiness. Another aspect came out in the video. Did you catch it? Some of the students, when they talked about happiness, talked about what they wanted to do. Happiness is me getting to do what I want. But when they were asked about joy, did you hear it? They were saying, I get to be with the people that I want to be with. Two very different things, even though they both bring a sense of being happy to us. There is a difference, even though they are going in the same direction, are close to being the same, but we have to have a separation, a difference between them. Now, I want us to remember that when we have joy, it doesn't mean that everything that we do is going to be great. When we have that state of joy, it doesn't mean that you have to pretend when difficult things happen. Because joy can happen in the midst of great things happening, great happiness in your life, and also in the midst of great sorrow. Because when you have joy, when you live in a state of joy, you're able to see the positives even in the midst of the time of great sorrow, and even in the time when you're just in the midst of the mundane. I think another way that we can find joy is through peace. Whenever I ask people what do they think of when they think of peace, especially my New Testament classes, they say no violence. That two people are just separated, or two groups of people are separated and they're not fighting. But I think it's so far greater than that. In Hebrew, the term for peace is shalom. It's a great Jewish concept because it's far greater than the sense of just no violence. It actually means that there's a sense of fullness, that everything is in the right place, that everything is good, that everything around you with this person is exactly the way that it's meant to be. Not just two people in different sides of the stage or different places not fighting, but actually everything is in the way it's meant to be. It's in a perfect state. And it makes it even better when you hear that that's how the people that speak Hebrew greet one another. They say shalom, peace, and the person responds shalom aleichem, peace be to you. There's a sense that even in their greeting, they want to have a fullness in the midst of this. Now, when we think about this idea of joy, Christianity has a perspective on this. And the idea here is that if Jesus has set his people free from what binds them, then Christians believe that they can have joy through peace and through freedom. No longer does a Christian have to worry that they are not accepted because they're accepted by God through the work of Christ. And what happens is that the way Christians relate to the world and their surroundings changes. Emil Brunner and Frank Lake actually came up with an idea called the cycle of works and the cycle of grace to make this more relatable, to be able to understand it better. And the idea of the cycle of works is that we start off trying to figure out a way to achieve. And when we find achievement, we have a sense of significance. And when we have that significance, we want to sustain it. We want to have that be the sustenance in our life because we believe that we're going to be accepted from it. But the problem is that when we live in this way, we actually just keep going back to achievement. We don't ever truly get to acceptance because we feel like the only way that we can be accepted is by achieving more. They wanted to change this perspective, Frank Lake and Emil Brunner. We even see this to the cycle of grace. In the New York Times article about the class in Yale, one of the freshmen said this: "The fact that a class like this has such a large interest speaks to how tired students are of numbing their emotions, both positive and negative, so that they can focus on their work, the next step, and the next accomplishment." And so they propose that we need to reverse how it works. The cycle of grace is that we start with acceptance, that we've been accepted, and because of that, we're sustained from that acceptance, that we can find significance because we're in the midst of this, and then finally, out of that overflow, we're able to go out and to achieve. This is what happens at the beginning of the book of Mark, because Jesus comes on the scene and is baptized. And God speaks to him in what Mark says. And he says, "This is my son, whom I love, and I am well pleased with." But the interesting thing about the Gospel of Mark is that nothing actually happens before God says that. Jesus is not said to have healed anyone, spoken any great sermons, taught anything, but yet God speaks to him and says, "I am well pleased with you." And the fascinating thing is that even positive psychologists are starting to pick up on this and understand this. A positive psychologist from Harvard says this in his TED Talk, Sean Aker.
Here's how we get to health. We need to reverse the formula for happiness and success. In the past 3 years, I've traveled to 45 different countries, working with schools and companies in the midst of an economic downturn. And what I found is that most companies and schools follow a formula for success, which is this: if I work harder, I'll be more successful. And if I'm more successful, then I'll be happier. That undergirds most of our parenting styles, our managing styles, the way that we motivate our behavior. And the problem is, it's scientifically broken and backwards for two reasons. First, every time your brain has success, you just change the goalpost of what success looked like. You got good grades, now you have to get better grades. You got into good school, now you have to get a better school. You got a good job, now you have to get a better job. You hit your sales target, we're going to change your sales target. And if happiness is on the opposite side of success, your brain never gets there. What we've done is we've pushed happiness over the cognitive horizon as a society. And that's because we think we have to be successful, then we'll be happier. The real problem is our brains work in the opposite order. If you can raise somebody's level of positivity in the present, then their brain experiences what we now call a happiness advantage, which is your brain in positive performs significantly better than it does in negative, neutral, or stress. Your intelligence rises, your creativity rises, your energy levels rise. In fact, what we found is that every single business outcome improves.
Isn't that interesting? Our creativity, our intelligence, so many things go forward and are increased when we start with joy, when we start with happiness. Now, in the Harvard class, they said that the
Here's how
these were the 5 things that they said that you could do. You could have an awareness, know what brings you joy and repeat it. That you can form good relationships, do physical activity, learn from failure, and don't expect to always be happy. Sean Aker says that there are a few things that you can do that can actually help you change your mind, change how you are, so that you can become more happy. And he says that you write 3 things that you're grateful for each day. You journal, you exercise, you meditate, or you do random acts of kindness. These are all good things. And they're things that I try to do, and I encourage you all to do. But I think we have to start at the core. I believe that you have to change how you see the world. That you have to be in a state of joy instead of chasing after events that make you happy. Because when you start in a state of joy, more and more things actually bring out that emotion in you. I challenge each one of you to figure out how you can come to a place of acceptance so that you will be able to live in a state of joy. What we're going to do now is we're going to invite up Rags Draper and Francis Brown and Charlotte Brown and Jack Pittum and Zach Rowe. And they're going to come. When I told them about this topic, they said, you know what? We have a perfect song for this. And music is a beautiful thing. There's a belief in Christianity that if God created chaos and made it into order, that He created things to be beautiful, and music is one of those things. We even see this in the book of Psalms. This book of Psalms is a book of poetry, but also a hymn book for the Jewish people and for the Christian people. And so music is a wonderful and beautiful thing. And they're going to be coming out here with all their things to sing a song that's entitled Joy.
So we had this idea, like Charlie said, of singing this song called Joy by Red Collective. I think the words are really important. Here we go.
Yeah.
expo that's going to be happening. Hopefully there's no rain out in the quadrangle. And what we're going to have is we're going to have a bunch of organizations that hopefully you can see how people are finding their purpose. Thank you, everyone. You are dismissed.